Mike, right off of the earnings call, what's your key takeaway?
Yeah, I think the key takeaway for the call is how 5G is going to be beneficial to the Qualcomm's model. The real positive point from the call is for the March quarter guidance, or their Q2 guidance, the revenue per MSM, or the revenue per chipset going into these 5G phones. That revenue is going up 30% sequentially, which is one of the biggest jumps we've seen in our 20 years of covering Qualcomm. Stock's off a little bit in the aftermarket because June quarter guidance was flat with March. But if you look at the cadence of the smartphone market and the timing of Qualcomm's second-generation modem, the X55 for 5G, that kind of starts shipping late in the June quarter, they did indicate they expected another big step function in their revenue starting in the September quarter, which would also be the first time they're shipping back into Apple in a couple of years now that they're back in Apple for Apple's upcoming 5G phones.
So does the pickup in their fourth quarter, even though their third quarter is flat, enough to take us out of what has been 5 straight years of negative sales growth?
Oh, yes, I think you'll start to see positive sales growth. The big driver is, Apple is a large part of the smartphone market, right behind Samsung in terms of one of the leading smartphone vendors in terms of volume. Qualcomm used to ship to them, and then they moved to Intel, and that really hurt Qualcomm's ability to grow. Now that 5G is coming and Apple's moving back to Qualcomm, that's going to really help them return to growth. So you should see very strong year-over-year growth for Qualcomm, starting in that, even that flattish June quarter gives you year-over-year growth. It gets much stronger into the September, and they hinted at a very strong fiscal 21. So I think as you go to the December quarter and beyond, which is the full volume of Apple into the holiday season, you'll see very strong reacceleration of Qualcomm's year-over-year growth, and that's why we like the stock and have a buy rating on it.
Mike, of course, a lot of Qualcomm's profits come from licensing patents, and those have been the subject of a number of legal disputes in recent years. Is that a sustainable way for Qualcomm to continue to make money?
Yeah, great question. So they've done a good job. On the call, they highlighted now that there were over 85 OEMs, so it's a large portion of the smartphone OEM group, that now have 5G licenses. So as a key contributor to the standards for 5G, and spend more on R&D than their other chipset competitors combined, they're a big driver of the wireless standards. So continue to get very good revenue on the QTL side. This quarter had a nice seasonal bounce now that Apple's back paying them again after they've settled disputes. So that was a strong quarter. And really, the potential upside longer term is one of the largest handset OEMs in the world. Huawei is really the only major company no longer paying Qualcomm royalties, as those companies are in dispute. Should Huawei settle, we see that as another dollar in earnings on just the licensing side that could come back in the model.
Were there any comments on the call about Qualcomm's short-term, near-term exposure to the supply chain in China in the context of coronavirus?
Yeah, great question. On the coronavirus, they gave a wider to the normal guidance. We've seen that even from Apple's I cover, also and some of the other suppliers into the smartphone market. China's a huge, important market for 5G. A lot of Qualcomm's customers are Chinese OEMs making phones for their 5G launch. So they gave a wider than normal guidance range because of the potential impact. Right now, they see good demand as handset OEMs want to launch first 5G products into the channel, but clearly, until they have more information on the demand side, consumers going out to buy 5G phones, they gave a somewhat more cautious guidance with a wider range because of this, and that might have played in also to the flat sequential June guidance, just not knowing the duration of the impact.